Okay. Well, welcome everybody. We are at the Human Growth and Development Advisory Committee. This is a subcommittee of the Human Growth and Development Advisory Committee. And the committee had met and gone through recommendations and had gone through the curriculum, had gone through the statute and the standards, and came up with the committee recommendations. And now we'll be presenting those recommendations to the curriculum committee of the board and then the school board. And so tonight we have come together to really work on that presentation. And in front of you today, I'll tell you a little bit about what you have. You have a Chromebook which opens up. It's in what's called kiosk mode. So it opens up to the draft presentation that is up on the screen. And as you go through that, you'll be able to also click on the links at the end. So in the, yeah?
I was going to say that I noticed that in our recommendations, it seems like there's things left out that were there last time. But like when we get there, I guess.
Yeah, there shouldn't be anything that was left, that was in it last time that was removed, but I'm going to take a look.
Okay.
When you say that. So I right now have it so that you can edit it.
Okay.
And I'll have to change that afterward.
All right.
But I'm gonna say, when I looked at it before coming here,
Yeah.
it was all there.
Okay.
So I have it kind of open right now. I'll tighten it up after our meeting,
All
but
right.
it's open. So the presentation, I'm just gonna scan through this really quick. You can see there's blank pages in here for adding recommendations. And then again more. Then at the end are the links. So the grade 4 review, the grade 5 review, and the grade 8 review. This is where you turned your documents in and we typed them up. Then the state statute, we used this form last time, but now all of the notes I had taken and the video was gone through so that it could be, the information could be added right to the document. And then the grade 3 through 12 standards for health recommendations. The same information in a new format. Last time you had said that it would be, that same format that the statute was in would have been really helpful for the standards. So the same information from this document is in that format on here. At the end of this document, there are some recommendations that are down here. And so on this one, it's on the second tab that just says notes. So what was below the tables is here on the second tab that says notes.
And just so you know, I stand corrected. I found the things on different other areas in here. So yeah, everything's here that I remember. So
I found there's huge advantages to being able to all work on the same document. But there can be disadvantages too if someone doesn't understand. They're editing the master document.
So be
Yeah.
careful and, yeah.
So
track changes.
I don't think you can track changes on here, but you can do a history, and I'm gonna quick make a copy of it. So
The suggestion, instead of deleting something, if you think something is worth deleting, highlight it. And then, everybody can talk about it and figure it out, but that way we don't delete something and say, oh, I wish we still had that.
So every single one of us can start making changes and.
well, we'll go through it. We'll go through it.
Oh,
Julie.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's why we want to be
I know,
careful.
to me, it would be better if we all just kind of looked at it and then one person here makes the changes that we suggest or something instead of everybody making
Yeah.
changes.
Right.
or if we really kind of be careful and work together.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so we'll go through it as a, I'm gonna have to sit on the side so I can do it.
Because so far I like what I see, so. Yeah.
So, we'll be able to, go ahead, Tom, are you gonna say something?
Yes, sure.
Oh, yeah. Sure, 1 second.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Yes, they
Thought
had
I
a
heard
meeting
something.
till 5,
Yep.
and then they were coming right from that. Hello, ladies.
Guys.
Hi.
I think there's one here and one there, and, yeah.
Perfect.
Yep.
Okay, Tom, you should have it now. Okay, yeah, because I didn't put it in the chat. I can put it in the chat too.
I got it.
Okay, great. So just a little Google Doc tutorial. Like I said, everybody right now has access to edit it because again, we were gonna be working on it hands-on tonight.
Yeah.
And it works, this is a Google presentation. It's very similar to a PowerPoint presentation, yet not the same. It doesn't have all of the same features. I'll show you quickly how we can change color or strike through. And those are two things like you were saying, and I'm
Yeah.
sorry, could you please restate that, Chris? Because
So rather than deleting it, because once it's deleted, it's gone. If we do something like highlight or strike through, I think that's better because you can easily undo that then. Thinking back, I remember my kids being in like that Lego Mindstorm thing where they build the robots, and they were trying to build a presentation this way, and everybody kept deleting the things that other people had done
Oh,
without checking with anybody, and it was really cat. Yeah, it was cat. I mean, picture of fifth graders, and ooh, look, I can delete this. I can, and all of a sudden,
Right.
yeah.
We're probably a little bit better than fifth graders, but let's not give us too much credit.
Yeah, actually, I'm probably a fifth grade is probably better with this than I am.
undo only works on what you've done.
Yeah.
Like, I
Yeah.
can undo, I'd have to go into history and revert to an earlier version, but,
And then you lose other changes, and yeah,
yeah.
so, yeah.
Okay, so I have my present stuff up here, but the whole toolbar. All right, I'm not sure why it's not minimizing this part for me. But under format is where you're gonna have your font. Why?
You have to have something selected, I think. Then just print out if you like select contact,
Yeah.
then you get the option for formatting.
Yes, so you have to be in the text box in order to make it a change or something like that. So in the text box, if I wanted to highlight draft, I can go here and then it fills in the whole box. To get the highlighter, I have to go to the 3 dots over here. And then I can see the highlighter. So I could highlight it here, and I had to go to the 3 dots, and then here. This part where it says draft report is where it would be highlighted. So the Untitled, I said, where's that? Things we did. When the strike through is in the format, so if I have that highlighted, I would go to the word format and then drop down. Under text, sorry. So it's under the word text, under format then text. So, as we go through, I don't expect all of us to actually need to make changes.
Yeah.
But we can make them as we're going through. This document has both stapled to it, the state statute one with our feedback on, and then the state standard one with our feedback on. I did note, so just for ease of understanding on the state standard one, where it shows, Tom, all of these are linked on the last slide. And under the 312 state standards, there's one that says same information, new format. That's what we're looking at right now. So where it says, it has standard one, and then that was just informational, so we didn't fill anything in there. But standard 3 through 5, present is in the bottom of the box because that's aligned to 3 through 5. Then the next one, where it's middle grades, it'll say show present in the middle box because if you follow that up, that's referring to the middle grade. And then high school, if it was present, it's in the third box, but again, because that is it's in the same row and in the same column as high school. So, and then the comments are just to the right, but they're also paired up with the grade level that they reference. There is one shift, and that is on standard 3. When we went through last time, we said that examining strategies to access valid and reliable sources of health information, specifically tied to human growth and development. There were some examples of that. So it's present in the 8th through high school. And on your sheet in front of you, it doesn't indicate that. But on the linked document, it is there. It's just a matter of timing when it was printed. And then, so that is the one change. Okay? So what I think that I would like to do is give you a moment just to look at the presentation, go through that at your own pace. Go ahead and utilize the links that are on the end, at the end of the slide presentation. Utilize the links to go to any of the items that you may want to refresh yourself on.
This is the presentation, right?
That is it.
Yeah, okay.
I had it both ways, just in case someone.
Yeah, it is.
Plus, if you're going through, you might want to make a note on here instead of on there.
Yeah.
And
Perfect.
you can share it that way, and then one of us will type it in. Yeah, perfect. So I'll give you a moment to look that over, and then we'll come back around how we want to go about, how we want to introduce, and what, and if anything specific for the recommendations.
Yeah, I'm gonna highlight it here so that, so, yeah. Okay, I'm gonna add next.
Yeah, I think we're gonna do a little more spacing because they're numbered, but not a gap between.
Yeah,
We'll end
yeah.
up putting a gap between and think about the amount of text on the page.
Yeah.
But I want to have the substance down.
Yeah, I put two things on there and highlighted them in orange. And, you know, we can think about, do we want, is that the route we want to go or not? Yeah. Yep. Yep.
Or if you want the recommendation of the children health
Yeah, I thought it was.
There's something related to that on slide 4. And I added an orange there.
Right, that was like, should we specify? Or no?
The part that I took out was, what was in there before said, could be a different format, like, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, I'm sorry. Yep, 4, 6, 8, 7, 9, 11, and should consider, oh, no, it was, there's multiple options, right?
Yeah.
And I think we should say that in the notes so that the person speaking says that.
Yeah.
That there should be consideration. So that's where it was. There are options to be considered, there should be a change there. District health curriculum team should review the options in course development. And, you know, when it starts, additional course should be added, and then continues on from there. But I think we have twofold. One, we should specify it.
That's what I think, because
We have to
I was
specify
by
the level.
it's like a 7, 8, 7, and then like a 9, 10. 2 different levels.
So keep that comment there.
Should I add that there or no?
On slide 4, it's in orange right now.
Yeah.
But we'll end up putting some speaker notes in there. And then,
Can I elaborate on number 10?
next slide.
Sorry, slide 5, it's the same thing, the overall recommendations, but the 10 thing that we have there, it's the, during the comprehensive health curriculum, map out what other curricular areas or standards are covered. Can we, I know there was a lot of mention that it was, many of these are covered in counselor connection, but can we align those missing standards so that uniformly all 5 elementary schools are getting those? I know when Elisa was here,
Yes.
was here, she said, yes, I teach that, we do 1 of 2 lessons, or, we do, that's a 2-part lesson or whatever. But I'm not sure that's 100% across the district. And so when we look at the 8 standards that are covered in HDD, really 2 of them are covered well during our 3-day unit, but those other 6 then are the ones that she said, they're hit hard in counselor connection. But we could easily map out, and those lessons are developed and available. We could easily map that out to just ensure that these are hit, throughout the course of the year and hit correctly.
Yes, that sounds wonderful.
And then I really like it too, because those counselor connection lessons start in September and don't end until May. We don't teach this human growth and development until late April or May, where there are things that definitely could or should be addressed earlier. And then if we can be touching on those, much earlier in the year, we can ensure that all of our students, regardless of if they're at Fair Park or Jackson, are getting the same.
Yeah, that sounds really good. And I just noticed 2 things for me, I guess, that I noticed. One would be, just because I know we talked about it, but I don't know that, I didn't really see it like actually noted in here, and, but I just wanted to make sure that whenever, one of my things was to make sure that whenever we are talking about the trusted adult, that we always put the parent guardian
That is
first in
in
order. Is that one of the numbers?
No, I just read it.
I just
Oh, do you know where I read it? I
added
read it in the
page 6.
specific 4th grade, when I clicked on the 4th grade unit. So go to the
Oh,
way
yeah,
end.
it is in the specifically for kids.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
On the link or on the page, the slide that says 4th grade.
so I went to slide 15 and then I clicked on that grade 4 link.
No,
and
I
it's in
don't,
it.
I don't know, where do you see that? 'Cause I don't.
So you have to click on the link in there, Jody. So go to
Oh,
slide,
it's not on this page here. It's not on this paper.
well, I don't know. It's a link, so no, it couldn't be on the paper.
So, let me see the slide.
It's this last slide.
Oh, okay.
I think what I'd like to do is, if you feel like you've had enough time to kind of look, then
Oh, so it's
I'd
in
like
the
to go
link. Oh,
slide
it's in
by
the link
slide
itself.
and
Sure.
say, this is what needs to be added here. And then, as it goes longer, we'll end up adding
Oh,
more
okay.
slides.
Oh, so it's in the recommendation, but it's not necessarily in our presentation, is what you're saying, because it doesn't need to be in the presentation.
Well, I think that's one that needs to be in the presentation,
Which one? Oh, one where we are always.
where we say the parent and that,
Okay,
when we're talking about trusted adult,
Yeah.
parent/guardian,
okay, so we're,
we need to mention
Yeah.
trusted
Okay.
adult in your home.
all right, so on the presentation, it's not listed in the presentation, I don't think.
I did add something in orange on slide 6 to that.
Okay, good. And then the,
So, yeah.
okay, great. And then the only other thing that I,
Up there.
then the only other thing that I noticed that, and maybe it should be part of the presentation, I think, and it's probably in the recommendation somewhere. But I think that I didn't really see in the presentation that it talks about conversations like we're going to, send the questions home that weren't answered in class. But I think that we should also maybe, expand that a little bit and just make it clear that conversations in the class will be factual, medical-based type things, like that if it has anything to do with values and beliefs, that those are the types of conversations that we'll leave for the parents and guardians at home.
I don't know if that's 100% accurate, though, because when we were talking, I think last week, someone said, like, sometimes they defer things home just because they're not sure all the kids are ready for that developmentally.
Yeah.
Like if a 4th grader's asking more detailed questions that are biologically viable about like
Right.
sex and stuff like that, that's when we're gonna defer to home, which isn't values-based,
Right.
it's science-based.
Well, it is kind of,
So-
values. I mean, some of it's bad, some of it's science.
Well, I mean, it's the science-based curriculum.
Oh, so you're saying that sometimes science will also go home? But
I think so, yes.
Yeah, so
So,
my point is that whenever it is values-based, then, I mean, that, you can
Okay,
send
so
as
it's
much
just a
home as
different
you want.
phrasing.
I just want to make sure that whenever there's values-based things, that those will be safe for the
Okay.
families. We can send as much science in that homework with the families if you think the families are like, want to wait for a certain time, but I just want to make sure that the values-based are going home, because every family has different values and, you know. and that's-
I misunderstood the way you were
Okay.
spinning it, like I
Okay.
thought you were going, so
Okay,
I get it,
good.
we're like,
Okay,
Okay, so, first slide is just the title page, second slide. Okay, first slide is just the introduction, and when we're actually there, I will introduce the members of the committee that are there. And I believe board meeting last night was canceled, it's Thursday of this week. So after that, if committees are done, then, and I have the date, I will let you know.
Do you know why it was canceled?
we didn't have enough notice, they thought, they have to have all the notice in the paper and stuff like that. They were erring on the side of caution,
Correct.
in case it was not noted, you
Yeah.
know.
but it's probably smart, because those people want, nitpick. Yeah.
And you wanna, it's, yeah,
I mean, like the schedule for meetings is out all year.
Right,
That's
that's why I
crazy, they've
thought-
been on my calendar.
Yeah, that's why I thought.
but it's also the
But they
agenda,
have,
yeah,
the agenda and all their other.
Sure. And posted in the places we can find. Okay, so, I would introduce the committee and remind, the board that this is a board appointed committee. Then again, the second slide just goes into the purpose, which, generally these things will flow and, I have to remember, right? So, we'll again review the committee purpose, and then we have the question. I'm sorry, I apologize, I'm watching on this screen because this is where I would type, but I have it up there, and that is what the mouse is controlling. So, again, we had our goal identified, and then, and I would talk about the goal, and then state that, that the committee had worked to discuss the statute, the standards, and the curriculum, and to ensure that they're age appropriate and that it's meeting the current needs. And then we'll go into the recommendations. So as a result of all of the discussion, we came to consensus on our recommendations. And so we're here to share what those recommendations are. And then right now we have overall, and then we go into grade level. And then I just titled blank pages as additional recommendations. The website stuff is on one of those. And the, but I would like your feedback. Do you want to go overall and then specific grade level? And so order is another thing. But let's first look at the recommendations listed. So,
So far, I like what you have said, I think it makes sense to me overall, and then go to specifics after.
so we'll keep it at overall, and then we'll do, it will be gone through again for editing, for grammar, punctuation, capitalization, all of that. But then we'll add in spacing, because admittedly, that's a lot of verbiage on a slide. So it may lengthen it quite a bit so that there's less on a slide, but that gives us, and again, no spaces between the numbers, but we'll add that. So when we look at this, we need to work on number 5 on this page. Any of the others that we need to work on, or are we good to go on the other recommendations?
Yeah, just those 8, I think was able to.
And just, do we wanna change the word a little bit on 5? Do we wanna mention the options of 6th and 7th grade options? Do we wanna because it says there are options to be considered.
Mhm.
Do we want to suggest things that we've been talking about, like as options? Or do we wanna say there are options, and obviously that will get explored more.
So we can do it two ways. We can list it right there. In so like a PowerPoint presentation, there are speaker notes. And some of the detail here, like for item number 5, and this may kick over to a new slide, but it would say for item number 5, whoever is going to be sharing that recommendation would state, we talked about different options such as having a class in 7th grade and 9th grade, or to go 4, 6, 8, 10, or, but there should be an additional course added within, so that the students don't have such a long gap.
Additional course added, I would say before high school, not like an additional, I think that's really what we came to decide, discuss the most. That before high school, they should have another dose.
Because we're thinking it'd be 4th and then in 4th, 6th, 8th would be before high school or something.
So, and that's one option. Or if we want to keep the existing option, we could add in a 7th. So it'd be 4th, 5th, 7th, and then the 8th through 12th.
Oh, yeah, that sounds good too. Yeah,
That seems
Those
to
are
work
2
well.
different ways of approaching it.
Yeah,
And-
I think probably the 4th, 5th, 7th, just because of the fact that we've got kids coming in from all different schools and we don't know. Or, if they're gonna all get it in 8th grade or not, so do the 7th grade and then
Yeah.
whatever most of them are getting it in 8th grade anyway, but some of them are in that way.
So,
Yeah,
those
So
are-
then is your recommendation to add another half credit as a graduation requirement?
No,
Who's teaching this
Right.
7th grade? Right.
yeah, no, it wouldn't be another requirement because we already have that 8th through 12th that comes towards high school.
Right.
But adding a 7th grade
like aren't
so
you
that they're not
basically-
going from 5th to 8th or.
No, I
10th,
totally agree with that
Yeah.
large gap. I was just wondering, I think that's a whole
Where are we
other
put-
gamut
yeah.
if we're changing a
Only-
graduation.
Yeah, and that's not really, because if we add something at 7th grade, that's not really a graduation requirement.
Right, for sure.
Right, yeah, that's why I was thinking that would be good too,
Yeah.
because then we're leaving the 8th through 12th grade alone as far as that goes. and
Okay.
It goes as it has been, but.
Tom, would you go ahead, please?
I'm sorry, guys, right now, but I understand that you guys want to work this 7th, 8th, but there's still technically a gap. Because most of the kids take the 8th grade, or take the high school health class in 8th grade. So then you go 9, 10, 11, and 12, and they get nothing. So my personal opinion is go back to the way it used to be, where it would be 4, 5, 8, and 10. That's how it used to be before it merged together to make one big, huge health class from 8th grade to 12th grade.
At that time, was it,
They take it in 8th grade, they get nothing past 8th grade, which that's probably one of the most important times they should have it.
is it half credit then or a quarter?
There was a quarter credit back when it was 8th grade, 10th grade, and then when they combined, they pushed it to a half.
Could it be done in a way where that 10th grade component gets blended into another health class or gym class if they take in 10th grade?
Well, they don't offer another health class past the high school recommendation. There's talks about adding one, there has been for a while, but it's never gone anywhere. Our goal is always get that high school class that started at the 8th grade back into the high school. Just because that's an important time, especially when you talk about mental health, if you talk about
Yeah. Yeah.
human health development. It's just one of these things where there's still a gap.
And that's not gonna change your required credits for
graduation,
Right.
if one's required in 8th grade, and then the next one is still your high school credit, right?
Or is it
Well,
really
yeah.
required in 8th grade, or is it just like?
No, he's saying require it in 8th grade and then require the second one in 10th grade.
And
Oh,
10th grade would be the one that counts towards graduation.
Right.
Right.
Yeah,
I think one thing we may want to note is, it sounds like there's two core issues. One is the gap after 8th grade, and one is the gap between 5th and 8th grade. Does that sound right to everybody?
Yep.
So two core issues. One is the gap after 8th grade, that if somebody takes it in 8th grade, they don't get anything down through high school. And the second is that gap between 5th and 8th grade.
I think push
Is that-
5th grade off to 6th grade, in my opinion, because they're gonna get all the
Yeah.
administration
Well-
stuff they need in 5th
And
grade.
one of the
Let's
things,
just make sure we all kind of agree on what the
Yeah.
two core issues are.
Right.
Does those
you're
sound
right.
like the two issues?
And
I
keep in
don't-
mind that what's
Yeah.
instructed at 5th grade is only a 3-day
Yeah.
unit.
Right.
We're not talking even a quarter, you
Right,
know? So it
Not
is
even a week.
it's a small amount of
right.
But that's why I'm saying that it
what
would
we
matter if
talked
we pushed
about
it to
the other
6th grade
day
instead.
was that, like you said, these are the core issues.
Yeah.
And that's more than human growth and development, that's health as a whole.
Yeah.
And as we send these recommendations forward, that comprehensive health team will have to work that out. Like, what is the
Okay.
proper sequence
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
and all of that.
okay.
And so, and with that is determining that proper sequence. Like right now, the opportunity to take health as an 8th grader and earn that credit so that you can do additional electives while you're at the high school.
Right, that's why I
is
think
one
they
of the
blended them
significant
together.
motivators. Correct.
Yes, that's why they did it,
It
because then
is.
it gave, because there's so many like AP classes and everything, everybody's trying to get in, and well, now that means we can't do band, and we can't do this and that, so they kind of squashed them together. But then, of course, it's, you know, but
Nothing
yeah,
that should
health
be
is so
squashed.
important, right?
Right.
Yeah, it's so important that those are, they can take it in the summer though and stuff too.
I was
usually.
just gonna say that one
Yeah.
of my coworkers, his son takes things like PE over the summer because he
Yeah.
doesn't wanna waste his time on anything but his AP classes.
Right. Yep, so they can make that choice still.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they still have that choice to make, so, yeah. So I think it is a good recommendation just to go back the way it was and, yeah.
Isn't there things that we can add? So, for example, with our CPR, our students used to be certified CPR, and Red Cross took that away from us because we didn't have enough instructional days. So if we went back to that and then we kind of regrade the curriculum here, we can make sure that those students get those hours, and if they pass, they would come up with a Red Cross certification. So that's pretty good.
That's key, we can use it everywhere.
Yeah.
So,
So
Yeah.
it sounds like for the scope of this presentation, maybe in 5, what we want to do is emphasize the two gaps that we've noticed. And that some sort of restructuring needs to take place. And maybe we mentioned some of these possibilities, but we recognize that it's really going to be up to this higher level committee to take that and figure out how do we work that into the full curriculum. Because if we add something in the 6th grade, that means something else has to get taken out. If we,
right.
Yeah, that's a lot of pieces that we can't really.
And
Yeah,
that's what's hard to, because that's when we
Yeah.
track off growth and development, and we stick with growth and development.
yeah. So just make sure we
I
identify
started with
those
that,
two
you know,
gaps in
like,
that
okay, we
presentation.
want to do this, okay, but it's not this.
Yeah.
So what I would propose, and I put all the notes down below, is that item number 5 gets its own slide, period.
Yeah.
Sure.
And then, so cut it now.
Depending too what the state decides to do with their standards, it might be a total overhaul, or it might be really not much different, and that
Yeah.
could potentially
Change
guide
a
some
lot, too.
decisions, yeah.
Yeah,
I remember seeing a lot in the standard development timing of construction, just like these are the sections. that
Yeah,
get-
I think sometimes it's like
But I mean, they could.
developmentally appropriate kind of starts to like come out.
So I just take those notes from the other slide. well.
Or I think it's good too that we're doing this on slide because the board will appreciate that we've grappled with this. We've noticed it. We're giving some time to it. And now we're kicking it up to,
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
further review of, and whatever they would recommend that we
There was
noticed.
a time, when fifth grade was 4 days, because you did the same lesson you did, the same,
Oh,
and then you
switched
added
them.
the gender,
Yeah.
the opposite gender, so, you got the same type of, healthy habits, germs, learned about what's going on in your body, and then you learned about, so it used to be, way back when, 27 years ago, 4 days, and then that just switched, and
And now all of
Yeah.
the stuff.
Yeah.
Changes.
When you say 27 years, it sounds so long ago, but it really wasn't.
it sounds crazy long, but I know, right?
Yeah.
It seems like yesterday. On the same slide, are we done with that one?
Yep.
Okay. I know the verbiage you used is revise outdated images and language. So you're probably referring to this as well. The video that's played by either the nurse practitioner or doctor, there's some outdated language, I guess, in there, so.
And imagery.
Mhm.
If you saw the video in the link, embedded in the links, it is, they take out a floppy disk to put in the computer to play games.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Were they playing Oregon Trail?
Yeah. That would have been really funny.
We'll get a copy this back from them.
So where I will take where it says, slides and videos and, there and put it down in the notes below. So, just need to check if I copy that over. Number 5, it's on its own slide.
I know.
So it's now, yep. Now number 7.
I was like,
The 6 already existed, so I just kind of.
I mean, you'll work when we're done on renumbering everything. making it look all-
Yeah.
And this isn't necessarily a recommendation for the board group, but as much as a site and maintenance or whatnot. With number 8 says include where you can get menstrual products at school. I think that, like I'm thinking of my, 3rd and 4th graders, they're on the 2nd floor. There's nothing in the bathrooms available, so they would go down to the school nurse, which means they walk the entire school to get down there already after the fact. So, and at least a couple of years ago, Decorah still didn't even have the disposal boxes in the bathrooms. They were just added to McLean last year. So, when you think about how difficult that's already for a 10-year-old, and then we're making you march through the whole school to maybe possibly, find the nurse at the office past 13 classrooms en route. Again, not a board recommendation, but just in general, a facilities recommendation.
I would put some boxes inside of that. Yes, I agree.
Or in classroom.
Yeah.
Maybe available classroom.
Yeah, we all have plenty of empty lockers that could be, right outside, the bathroom, they're closed, they're in a spot, There's lots of options that don't draw attention to the situation.
That's key for them.
Yes,
It's really-
right.
Sorry, boys. Sorry about that.
It's a fact of life, right?
Well, and depending, everybody's cycle is so different, whether it's heavy or light, and if you're having a heavy one and you've got to run through the whole school,
Right.
that could be disastrous.
Right.
And easy.
Mhm.
Yes.
Right, more fun, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, there's no reason we can't do better.
Anything else on slide 4? So we will be renumbering as you said, and now I'm on slide.
Sorry, I'm just gonna stop you, I know you mentioned it before, as far as grammatical.
Yeah.
So in some of your parentheses, you include a period and then some you don't. So,
And
And that one, like, so on slide. Oh, it's on slide 4. Like this one, this probably should be in the speaker notes. So that
exactly,
the
I agree.
speaker can state that.
Yes.
And, so in the speaker notes, I would put number 1, and you'll have to correlate, if that still is number 1. after
Yeah.
it, But, statistics. Okay, so I just moved. Presenting, you have to do it to get it to show up there. So I put it in the speaker notes and then I separated these 2 out into 2 separate bullets there. Because if they were both together as one. So I left it revised on confirmation now, or frequently, and then establish process to update statistics in years. Okay, so now I'm moving again to the slide 5.
I'm just gonna comment on whoever put the number 11 one in there. But is this realistic
That
component?
was me.
Okay.
I wanted to hear it being in
Yeah.
classroom.
No, that's awesome.
There's a lot to ask of you
Yep,
guys.
so at least during the presentation, you know, that's done by either the nurse practitioner or by the pediatrician, they're doing the vast majority of the speaking, and there's at least 2 other teachers in the room. So for sure, one of us could scribe, you know, that component of it. I really like it. I know I shared it out with you last time that when the one question was addressed and she said, and it kind of goes back to your point earlier, when she said, but how, one of the students asked, how do the egg and the sperm meet? And she said, that's a conversation you can have with your, you know, parents or your trusted adults at home. So like, it was easy enough to defer a non-value type question, and we could easily document that, because that girl obviously is questioning it,
Right.
you know, and if she is, it's likely somebody else would be.
Right.
So I
Just
think
have to go
if we
fast.
stayed at that, you know, last year we didn't have medical professionals in the rooms with us, it would have been a little more challenging. We probably would have had to, you know, ask for a pair or somebody to do it, but having that presentation taken over by the professionals, does free us
Frees you
up,
to-
so, yes.
Yeah, I was just more like, is it realistic? Cause
Yeah.
a lot's expected of you
Right.
already, you know,
Yeah.
to just.
No, that would be great, and I think, you know, some of our kids would appreciate it too. It might not be a question they feel comfortable verbally asking,
Sure.
but if their parents have it in front of them, they can say, hey, let's just talk about a few things that I see came up with other kids your age at school today. So, I do like that one.
And most of the, I think this is common practice, but most of the questions at the presentation I was at, they were written down.
Hmm.
So there were a few questions that the kids.
For
raised
sure.
again, But most of those questions were written down, so it was easy to go back later and.
Yeah.
compile.
Yeah, and that allows them to pull it out and read it. and
Yes.
say, oh, yeah, can't answer that.
And it also allows for us to see themes to the questions. You know, like where's the biggest concern? You know, 13 girls asked about, you know, this is definitely something that could warrant further discussion at home.
So then maybe on the slide, are you gonna take that little question off of there? Or should it stand there that it says, is this realistic?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So 14 was added in, when she absence at an earlier age. And right now it says maybe 6th or 7th grade as a small percentage of youth and sexual activity in 7th and 8th grade. So currently it's not, we don't do HGD in 6th grade or 7th grade.
Correct,
So-
so that'd be if the new curriculum was added in those
Sure.
units. Yeah.
And then number 15 mentioned birth control at an earlier age as well. So that it's taught alongside abstinence. And,
Um,
I think
The-
there's a open computer over here.
oh,
Yeah.
Sorry, my invite said 6, was it not at 6?
no, it's at 7. If your time is, I'm not at 7.
5.
But
Oh, mine's at 6.
They should all say 5, but if your time zone is off,
I don't have it, I don't know what that means.
if your computer is set to a different time
It's my
zone.
phone, it's the same thing as everything I would get.
so, what happens sometimes is
Yeah, no, it's at 6 o'clock.
in a Google, invitation, I had a teacher one time go, why are we doing these all at 2 AM? And they had it set to a different part of the world.
That is funny.
When I was looking for it, when I opened,
Oh,
that invite, it automatically set in my calendar at that time, so. when
Everything else I ever bought is over
later, I was like, this time is
Oh,
wrong.
that's
And
next week,
that's why.
So-
When I opened it,
Yeah.
no, it was
No,
only
it's
an
still
hour
wrong.
difference.
So it didn't autocorrect it once it
No.
was back?
I think I just accept, yeah, that was weird.
All right, my bad.
You're at a good part though.
Yep, you're at it.
Yeah, that's the separate percentage.
oh, yeah, sorry, I wanted to comment on that part there, in correlation to the person's comment about the recommendation, for multiple, forms of birth control. If you look at the data, which I know we're off a year or two in the cycle, one of the statistics that just stood out to me that was so alarming was that 81% of youth reported that the last time they had sexual intercourse, they did not use protection. 81, yes, in that. So I know we probably need multiple sources to show our data, but, you know, they use a condom. Sorry, it was worded as 81% did not use a condom. So, you know, making sure that they're exposed to multiple options.
So they might have used another form of birth control, although with diseases, that's not going to, you know,
And,
be it, but
Tom is commenting on here as
Oh.
this is going about like why condoms are the ones that are said because it's in the STD portion of it.
Got it.
So that's why that's
Yeah.
one. I mean, I guess, like, I like the idea of this. I don't know that it necessarily fits in this presentation really at all, because it doesn't really make sense with what we have to scope over right now because there's not a course. Like this 14 and 15 really fit under that recommendation of a new course,
Got it.
having some items that should really fit in there as one of our like reasons why we want that.
So can we kind of add those as sub-points on the slide about, this would give us an opportunity to,
Yeah,
at that age range, introduce these things.
And then you
yeah,
guys,
because it fits with those, yeah. I think it should be in the presentation somewhere, but that might be a better spot.
and when you are teaching condoms, of course, you're also teaching that, again, that it's not like 100% effective. You could still use a condom and still get herpes.
Well, I don't teach any of it.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm not planning on it.
My daughter's a doctor, like, today I was just talking to her about some of this, and she was going over the stuff that, condoms don't protect you from.
Right.
At least it protects you from some things, but not, there's, or, if it breaks or something, then you're SOL too,
Yeah.
so.
And it's doubling up on, yeah.
Mhm.
Jenny, you know where you are?
Yeah.
Okay, because there's a slide on the left, the highlights.
It's all, it's the highlighted stuff.
Is what we added.
Oh, just now.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. I'm sure it was confusing.
When Tom says the pill and shot, what's the shot?
Definitely.
Double barrel.
Is there a specific reason why we do the shot and not like an IUD? That's what it's called. Right?
Yeah, IUDs, the ring.
Because the shot and the filler is the most positive forms of birth control.
I find that hard to believe. What is that from? When's that data from?
I thought
IUDs are
an
coming up a lot.
IUD was recommended more after you had a child versus before you had a child.
That's true.
This is one of the.
So the old people get that.
So after, right, okay.
I get a shot, I'm done having kids, I'm not getting my period. Not worth it.
I'm on all the time.
Okay,
Yup, not worth it.
So when we talk about, we have it, it is on slide 4, where we're talking about the statistics, being out of date and, utilizing countywide information from the department. I would say stage 2, review forms of birth control. Review.
And can we change slides or we cannot change slides? Like in the presentation, that's not changed.
We can change that, that's what we're doing right now.
No, the slides that they see in like 8 through 12.
Oh,
We will be able to edit those and,
so we, not
not
necessarily.
we,
No, the
but
school.
the district.
Yeah.
So like the revising those statistics is something that we could do. And, but they, but it's like.
Yeah. What you, yeah.
So, in clarifying, they are editable. So the, on slide 4, in the speaker notes, I'm going to need to revise that, because it's automatically numbering them now every time I return it into one. So, I will use words to say with point 1, in blah, 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 with item 2, instead of the numeration, because it's automatic. All right, so back to slide 5, 14 and 15, I moved down to slide 7. So I'm going to delete those two, but before I do, I want to make sure that we've had a chance to review the comments that were made on here, so that because once I delete 14, oh no, because those are linked to number 1. So I'm deleting 14 and 15 there because I moved it down, right? Cool. So anything else with what remains on slide 5? So on slide 6 in the speaker notes, and again, when there will be more items on slide 6, let me properly space them, but I'm going to put for the speaker to indicate. So when we share that one, we want to make sure that it is emphasized over. I am going to drop down to slide 7 now. We're going to push. So then I think that I'm going to take this part. On your computers, you can see it highlighted. Move it down below. The speaker notes, and that's selected it. As our students discussed in an earlier age.
Bruce, you have the verbal opinion there.
Okay, so I have the detail of what was in the previous number 14 and 15 in the speaker notes. We'll pull those into sentences, and, but is there anything else that should be added to this?
Grade 3, do we want to specify?
Well,
I think that was.
I'm worried that, like, what if, birth control contraception be discussed at an earlier age, like, should we be specific?
I mean, that's in the speaker notes, because the rest of that sentence says something like,
Yeah.
whenever abstinence is, like, if we're starting to talk about sex, we should talk about all the things.
Yeah.
Okay. Different methods.
So like, I know it'll be like, okay, so the way like, I'm trying to picture it happening, right, so it gets presented. And then everyone there will have this on their screen. And up on the board, right, at the school
It
board.
depends on if they have, so the curriculum committee, they don't always have their screens out because
Because it's up on the big
it's up
screen.
on the board, or they have, so, everything in here, this whole thing is speaking of everything in Word docs from them to review.
Got it, so
Along
So it won't
with
just-
all of
Okay.
these documents. that
Sure.
are-
as long as it all stays together, so then that's an obvious, like, that's supposed to be.
Yeah, I was gonna say that instead of being two different lines, be like abstinence, birth control, contraceptives, like safe sex or lack thereof is discussed at the same time at an earlier time than it is now. Kind of lumping it all together.
With the
so-
abstinence.
Yeah.
Because right now,
Safe
it's
sex or
wait
lack
until
thereof.
at least eighth grade, right, that's what we're saying.
Safe sex, no
Yeah.
sex, all these discussed at the same time.
Yeah.
No. You're about
You can get a fourth and fifth grader to say abstinence.
just so that it doesn't get lost. You know, that meaning gets confused. We're not saying earlier, we're saying just at the same
Right.
earlier than it is now.
Right.
At the same time as we just start talking.
Before it's too hard to talk about it later. Oh, I wish someone would have said something to me before.
It makes more sense as one statement.
Because it's one cohesive thought.
You should have a comma after range.
Pardon me?
A comma after range, in this age range, prepositional phrase, comma.
I'm gonna take out the should you mention the sixth grade or seventh grade options because that's in the speaker notes.
Yeah.
To mention that.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to.
And I just added in 2 key gaps so that it's like a trigger, so we can like figure out how we wanna do that.
You just want to do the fifth through eighth one first, simply because chronologically it occurs first.
Oh.
Oh, yeah, that would make sense, yeah.
And it probably then would make sense in the speaker notes to mention that with that 8 through 12 curriculum, 75 to 80% of the youth had taken it at 8th grade.
It'd even be interesting of your other 20% to see how many of them are move-ins. You know, like were they in New Berlin when they couldn't take it in eighth grade, you know? Or did their families choose to, you know?
Yeah, I was talking with some of my students, just, well, it's not my mind, I mean, ask like, what are you doing?
WTF?
Yeah, Exactly.
That was from our earlier meeting. Sorry.
And so I was like, oh, we're talking about this, and this, and that. So, what are some of your thoughts? And they're like, oh man, yeah, most of us like 8th grade or 9th grade, wish we would have had it up here. And some of the kids were like, oh, I did. And it was really weird when some of the seniors were there because they failed it 3 times already. I'm like, oh, so that's where a number of seniors sometimes
interesting.
coming in.
Okay.
It was just interesting that like
So it's not that they're waiting till their senior year, it's
It could be both.
sometimes.
Like I got 3
Yeah.
now that just,
Yeah.
they didn't have time to take it, it was not accepted.
Yeah, they just didn't think of it,
Yeah.
didn't have time, but.
but some are actually failing it.
Correct. Correct.
Interesting.
Yeah, because I mean, it's just kind of like, that was kind of weird.
They're not observing it, I guess.
Or maybe they're observing the right parts 4 times, but just not the other parts that they need to pass the class, who knows?
Right, maybe they're not good test takers.
They're not turning their phone.
Yeah,
You know,
right,
yeah,
yeah,
that's-
it is, right,
Or
yeah.
Yeah.
That's usually good.
no homework.
And then when they're seniors, they're like, oh, I don't know, yeah, otherwise
So it's a big thing like here, because I get a lot of freshmen, and then like sophomore kids, they don't understand like Badger isn't count necessarily. When they get to high school, like you fail a class, you are like yourself. You can have graduation, turn a year in. Okay, so that it takes a little bit for them to like comprehend that. Yes. Yes. Like you are on the train here and you couldn't stay on track or you're not getting on board.
Yeah.
Tom's comment is on the slide where we put, I have birth control / contraception, he says it's the same thing.
Birth
Not
control,
necessarily.
no.
I have
Yeah,
the word, I'm sorry, I have the word, rather than the word.
Yeah.
Rather
So right here,
than just
Birth control.
flash.
/ contraception. You had it like that before, I think you just recently added it in. So you can get rid of that in the comma, do a slash.
But they are 2 different things.
Yeah, they are 2 different things.
I mean,
One,
Is
one
that getting too
stops the
wordsmith?
conceiving of a baby and one stops the implantation stuff of a baby.
Is that in most cases a little too much wordsmithing? And as long as we're focused on that both need to be there.
Yeah.
So there's a reason the way he teaches it, is that why he wants to change it?
Possibly.
I'm not sure, I'm just asking.
Or are we trying to maybe split out the hormonal and the barrier methods? Like, or
Right.
can we just say those are just one word, or we just use 2 different words?
Go ahead, Tom, do you want to comment?
Well, I was gonna say the main goal of both of them is to prevent pregnancies. I think we're gonna show acceptable.
So,
I would just be conscious for, I mean, you've got a clientele, I'm a product of the Holy Angels, and the rhythm method was the method we were, oh, serious, so like,
And
no, I'm
that's
just being
considered
conscious
birth
of,
control,
and
right?
that wasn't contraception, but it was birth control, so,
There's so much more to it nowadays.
I guess-
so it's natural family
Sometimes
planning.
birth control means hormonal methods.
right,
It's like, there's connotations to the
Right.
words that I think we
Right.
just are trying to get
I heard
through.
somebody's phone goes.
Natural family planning though is the new word for rhythm method, but it's very, very scientific.
so yeah, 27 years, remember, we went through this already, a long
Yeah,
time
but I
ago.
mean, they even
Yeah.
use natural family planning for people that are having fertility issues.
Sure.
Because it can help you prevent pregnancy, but it can help you also get pregnant, so
Mhm.
it is very scientific. Now,
Yeah.
I mean,
It's still just trying to make sure we're covering all
Yeah.
bases, is
But-
really what we're
right,
trying
and
to say.
it's more than just the birth control too, it's preventing STDs, right?
Yeah, so,
For sure,
Yeah,
I mean, birth control or contraception can mean the whole umbrella of things.
Right.
Okay.
Barrier methods, hormonal methods,
Right.
natural
Sure.
planning.
right,
It's just, we wanna call it more specifically the different types to make sure every bird's covered.
right.
And I just wonder if this is getting too deep in the weeds for a presentation. That we're giving the curriculum committee who may end up rehashing this very issue.
And then that as we move forward, like as the recommendations go forward, and so like the curriculum committee says, you know, we need to act on these recommendations, so.
So maybe it belongs
That's
on that other
specific
sheet of paper that you have, maybe it belongs on, if you, like, if we're gonna break it way down, maybe it needs to be added to this instead, that we're not presenting as much as a presentation. So that later when we go back, we don't forget that that's what we want to do, I guess.
I think it's more detail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Versus. Okay, what should be?
On slide 8. Again, we'll work on the order, but these were specific to grade 4. Any comments on slide 8? So the specificity of the
Yeah, that was worded a little different with the same idea in the 5th grade one, and I thought it was worded a little more clearly in the 3rd grade one. The parent letter should note that medical professionals participate in the lessons. I think so, that was really nice worded.
Yeah.
Should it be noted though that they only participate in that one, the delivery of the one? You know, the classroom teacher is responsible for the
I
healthy
think
habits and germs.
Yes, so the reason I was thinking that I was gonna say something similar is because I've had parents over the last couple weeks asking me why disease and AIDS is new this year. And I was like, I'm pretty sure it's not, so I sent a message and she's like, no, it's, cause I remember my kids doing
Right.
about it. And they said, well, no, I was there, they never spoke about it. And I said, it's another day. And they're like, I understand, that's what the letter says, but it never was taught. Like my kid says 100% it was never taught. So I think like, and you know how kids are.
Right.
Right. So I think if you specify like, this is what we're doing this day, the day that you're like, that you're coming, these will be discussed another day, like more specifically. I think that might help.
How it lays out, day 1 is
I know.
this, day 2 is
I
this,
didn't
day
think-
3 is this, to add specifically here, that that's where the medical
Yeah.
professional is.
And this is.
I mean, I
this is
think
the
we'd
day
all
that-
invite the medical professionals in all 3 days, but if that's not the case, you know, then
Right.
just letting families know that, you know, the 2 days of lessons are, you know, the responsibility of the classroom teacher, and then the 3rd is done by somebody else.
So the parent letter should note that the medical professionals participate and give an overview, like a outline of course structure. What you're saying, or,
No, not really.
okay.
Mm-mm. They really only participate in the anatomy lesson.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, the parent letter should say that they do participate, and then, yeah, exactly what they participate.
In which lesson? Or even if you said D3 or whatever, however.
Yeah, I think that, I won't put that on the slide, but
Yep.
I will note that first.
And is the reason that nothing is linked on the website right now is because of us? Is it normally gonna be there for them to get, like parents to go and click through, because it wasn't in the parent letter that you gave us last week anymore? But like,
Let's go back to we have a website slide.
oh, sure,
Okay, anything else for the grade 4 specific slide?
Well, I would like to talk about really quick about number 2. It does show up on each of the grade levels.
Yeah.
So is that something that we've decided is an overall recommendation?
That's good.
Or,
If we, well, it's showing up on each grade level, it
Yeah.
is an overall recommendation.
and I guess that was one that, when I was reading through this, like, I didn't know that, I felt like the rest, or at least most of this stuff, that there was a consensus. I don't know that that was necessarily a consensus statement to put on an overall recommendation slide.
Well, first of all, because we should always have something medically that the parents should be first, right? And we had talked about in the beginning, that if we're only gonna be talking about vaccines and medications as if they're wonderful, you're gonna have families right now, again, it's a values thing, right? So then it should be
So, I don't-
something that says, if you guys don't wanna talk about that there's risks with medications, then all you have to do then is say, your parents and guardians and medical care providers have the best information for you on these topics. And that way you don't have to talk about the risks. But otherwise, if you're only talking about the values, then I'm telling you that in other school districts, other states and stuff, they do things nowadays where they're having 11-year-olds decide for themselves if they want to be vaccinated without parental knowledge or consent. So the parents have no idea, you get, their kids are getting vaccinated, they have no idea that their kid was
So,
even vaccinated.
But that's not
Yeah,
like, that's what
and-
we're covering though.
Right, and so I understand your
You are,
concern about that.
you are covering vaccinations and antibiotics in these classes. You are covering
The
those things.
statement is, like when they're, pardon me?
Yeah, keep going, but I was just gonna say, they can be helpful in preventing.
It
So-
can be helpful, but
None of the verbiage is ever,
Right.
it is the only choice, or it's a 100% effective. And that same language, as it's worded here, always is included. These are discussions that and decisions that your parents and guardians will make with you.
right, so what's wrong with having that in there, so that whoever's teaching it understands that that's something they need to make sure that they let the students know. That this is always something that you make with your parents, right?
I think the majority of us believe that parents need to be involved in that decision. So I think we should leave the bullet point in there. It may not be a total consensus, but I think that's the majority that we think.
But you weren't saying to remove it, you were just
No.
saying move it to a
I
different
Right.
think
section.
move
Right.
it to a different section, and
Yeah.
I would like it reworded to not just say vaccinations and antibiotics, because then I think we're
Uh-huh.
erring on the
Just
other
say
side of.
medical decisions.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah,
right,
medical
yeah,
decisions.
right.
And then it's broad,
That's
and
good.
we're not calling you for
That's
specific.
fine.
Right.
Medical
I like
decisions, including antibiotics.
No, just medical
Just
decisions.
medical
Yep.
decisions. Because I think
Okay.
otherwise, when you get very specific like this, it automatically brings up then like,
Why do we have to treat these things separately?
Yeah.
If we maybe don't.
yeah, so I think just putting a blanket statement that overall recommendations for any of this stuff really is family or medical provider. It doesn't have to be specific at all.
Okay,
I like that wording. I think that covers us.
I like that too.
I have moved to slide 6 under,
I think that fits well with the other thing on slide 6. So don't worry about highlighting and making it look all pretty right now. We're focused on like the content.
And then really our recommendations for 4 and 5, the same?
yeah, so it could say for both 4
Yeah.
and 5. So I'm gonna change that to the top and say recommendations for grades 4 and 5.
It's over there.
On slide 9.
Looks for a good moment.
on slide, 9, we have 2 things highlighted. And it goes back to, we felt that we needed to enhance instruction on the criminal penalties for engaging in sexual activity with a minor, on the sex registration.
Are we putting in with number 4 on slide 9, then the part about, the resources? Or is that later?
We have that in, it's down, it's on here. We have the media lines. Enhanced disease prevention information, instruction, use of testicular and ovarian cancer, and disease prevention. Enhanced instruction on sexual abuse and rape is highlighted. And frankly, I don't remember because it wasn't there before and someone added it in, or if it was highlighted for different reason.
Was it highlighted, did someone highlight that and number 6, and maybe they were highlighting it and still avoiding no? If no wasn't there before, I checked, I know it's there now. After number 6.
After number 6.
Someone wrote no, like, maybe they don't want that discussed.
Talked about this last time specifically about the overall negative impact, negative influence of pornography as part of human growth and development.
I think
That was part of the media-wise component, if I remember the discussion properly, was it not?
I added the word negative in there because I saw the word no and I was wondering if people misread what was meant by that. So,
That would be possible.
like somebody just saw, include information on the influence of pornography. Wait, I don't want to teach kids to look at porn. It's not like, you know.
Right.
So, specify negative influence.
Both of those things are in the printout.
But not
So, but
highlighted,
nothing,
right?
no, and they're not highlighted, so.
Protecting.
Yeah.
Okay.
So now I could probably take the word no off the end, because now the word negative is in there.
Mm-hmm, for sure.
Probably- Okay.
Clarifies that. So then number 4, did we have,
So you
what
want
are we
to
drawing
have,
down on 4?
you want to put the,
I said respond, do we need a verb in there? Enhance instruction on responding to sexual abuse and rape?
Yeah, maybe.
Or
Reporting, getting
reporting.
support.
Yeah,
right, like all the different places they can
Avoiding
call, text, yeah, all the resources that are available.
yeah, I feel like 1 is doing the avoiding because it's enhanced instruction on how to manage a
Yes,
risky situation. And I'm sorry, like,
Mhm.
let's be honest, you're not avoiding. I mean, you can protect, but
You can
no,
do
it's
whatever
gonna,
you want.
yeah. So I feel like we need a verb in 4.
And I think we also need to move it up so that it's.
Sure.
Enhance instruction about resources to access, in events of sexual abuse and rape. Because that's one of the things we called out, is that it wasn't really there enough having the local resources. And legal resources wasn't really addressed, if I remember correctly. Counseling, medical, and legal resources. And you might as well just write it like it is in the statute. That's pretty clear, and it doesn't, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I can word it, it's really hard. Want to avoid that.
All right,
And we
then.
have something in the speaker notes on that one about adding like the local resources. 'cause it's all about that, all that is-
Refresh my memory, I'm sure it's in there and I'm just not remembering it. But do they talk about specifically what is sexual abuse, what is sexual assault, what is rape? Because I think having that knowledge too is gonna be huge for,
Difference.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and so the part of the statute comes with, I mean, yes, that's, we also have to explain the sex registry. Um, and the criminal penalties for, not to pay minors and.
And that's not in there right now.
No.
We need to add that.
That's not on our slides.
Oh, and we're.
I'm inserting a duplicate slide, so that I can, refine this a little bit. Okay, so, we have,
It's like Facebook.
It's more like more and all of a sudden you get Okay. I remember seeing it.
Yeah.
yeah.
The camera wasn't here.
God, of course, hearing.
Yep, we can get rid of it.
The speaker notes, I don't believe I captured what we discussed in the speaker notes.
On slide 9.
9 to 10. Well, they're the same thing because I started at slide 10, so, again, social resources.
Well, you can get rid of one on slide 10 altogether, right? Because isn't that 2 on slide 8 or 9?
Oh, yeah.
I know it's wordsmithing again, but do we want to change child to minor?
Oh,
Yeah.
On number 3,
Especially if we're talking about.
I mean,
High
really,
school,
it's the
yeah.
16-year-old girl and the 18-year-old boy.
Right.
I mean, while she is still a child.
Yeah.
That is a
Or
little
Minor
more
is
kind of
better
mild.
than C
Right.
around the survey.
Yeah.
My
But-
6-year-old doesn't seem like. I told me he was an adult the other day, I'm like, all right, I got a rent check.
Okay, going down to slide.
So, do we still need to add in, about surrendering, the new thing, right?
Was surrendering the baby?
Wasn't that's the newest one?
The, relinquish, depository relinquishing.
And we were gonna take, number 9, we're taking off number 6, that's highlighted, because that's what we covered in that new overall.
I was just gonna say that, did the purple on here mean delete those? Cause like the negatively impact.
Oh, that one.
Oh,
no,
contribute
don't
to,
be- Yeah, that one we don't want to leave.
we should just like,
The contribute to, I think, was the strike through, right?
Yeah, because I didn't know how to strike, didn't want
Yeah.
to find the strike through option, so I just made.
Oh, I think it's shift all 5. Mhm. Or
That's
control all
six.
5.
I moved it to the front.
Right?
I love keyboard shortcuts.
I mean, when you teach 9 and 10-year-olds, they just teach you everything.
Oh, I believe it.
Oh, I love
want
everything
to.
about it.
Uh-huh.
It makes you so happy.
And then when you guys.
Oh.
Yeah.
Bring it all down, and we're like, let me.
That's my-
Every single time.
Just run that like a little chart, you know, like, oh,
I didn't know about the history. He's never. Like that if you accidentally close tabs, you go to history.
Oh, and
Yeah,
say
like
that.
that. Do you want them? Well, like today, I had to shut down their computer, and she was like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna lose all my tabs. Aw.
Slide 11. On your screen, I don't know what it is. They do add slides.
will you just do me a favor and change that size to the same as the other? I think the size of the type is of maybe 8 and 9 or something.
Yeah, I'm sure she'll clean that up.
Yeah. This is
I'm singing Mr. Roboto in my head now.
And sometimes with the slide template utilizes different fonts. So when I add a slide, it may revert back to what the template is. So we'll leave that one too. So this is website recommendation.
We still want the letter from the phone, right?
You still want the letters?
Have that in there. I mean, it's currently done. Like you should talk about like pictures on the website.
I think, so that sample pen letter. So on the teaching and learning department page, there is where it lists human growth and development. That is the only one that has another, a specific link to it. And then there are, so this page needs to be fully updated. So if we're gonna keep that link there, this page needs to be fully updated to include the things, that are on your screen on slide 11. So it should all be readily accessible. So we have these little overviews here. More information is not linked here. And then this takes you to, this is to the opt-out, yeah, this is to the opt-out letters. So what here, the recommendation is not just to link up the course overviews, which are linked on the course overview page. So further down on the curriculum page, there's a spot to go to the course overview documents. The recommendation here is, if there's a page dedicated to HGB, it should have the full information, not just the course overviews. And so what would have been linked there would have been just the course overviews.
Right.
And we want to just put the full information. And course overviews can stay where they belong, but that on this page should have it. Does that accurately capture that? Sample peer letters should be on the web page. The letters should continue to be sent home. So we're putting that in, we don't want to use that practice. And then, okay, one location to find materials, I think, take that off if we have the,
Easily accessible.
and if there's one page, if there's a page, put it all there.
Well, and we're gonna link anything from the health class for 8th through 12th on that same page.
We would want to separate it out, like, here's HGD,
Sure. Here's how.
here's health and wellness, and here's the full health.
Where are you putting that? And so you're taking it off of this and you're putting it where so people?
So this is the health, this is the HGD, Human Growth and Development page.
Yeah.
On the website.
Okay, oh, okay.
So in addition to having human growth and development, we have, so this link here is for health and wellness, and it's again the opt-out. But that, this letter, we revised it this year, so that has to be relinked on the website. I'll connect with our web person on that. And actually, you will. Correct.
Okay.
Because health is, so, because it says 4th grade, 5th grade, I mean, should we make sure it says 8th through 12th, health and wellness?
We need to specify.
Right, because otherwise, you know, it's like, oh, do they all just take health and wellness, or? I guess it does say it right below it, health and wellness course 8 through 12. I see. But up here. Right there where it says health and wellness, that would make it good, 8 through 12, health and wellness.
I agree. And then here, and then you don't need this separate line up here.
Yeah, because that would be for all of them, technically. Anything below that is just state statute.
So then, but then eventually we'll have a link where they'll get everything that's taught.
It needs to
Okay.
be up there, yeah, specifically in here, and then it's just one stop.
Yeah.
Okay, back to the website recommendation. Anything else on the website?
So the purpose of this page is
Which page are you on?
I mean, I'm still looking at the additional, the website recommendations.
Yeah.
And so there's not a note there that says that we're gonna put everything in one place, but that's because this page serves, you've got it noted somewhere else.
Yeah, so
Okay.
where it says, it should have the second bullet, if there currently is, and if that, that's,
Because it doesn't say anything about the health stuff, it doesn't need to say that there, right?
that's the one.
Okay. But. Yeah, but also, and all HGD is taught in those 3 days, or is there somewhere that we should say that it'll also list out if there's anything in it taught to most prep? Because that other
Yes.
stuff is,
That was in slide when it talked about
Mapping it out.
mapping it out.
okay,
So that's where it would say like fourth grade conflict connection.
okay, oh yeah, so that's a different thing, okay.
Yes, that's important. So that was like its own.
Okay. But with that, the thing up on top, that because we're mapping it out, it doesn't have to be in the website recommendations, we'll find it later in the other recommendations, is what you're saying, right?
Yeah, I see what you're saying too, it doesn't, because it's going to be posted, should it be under the website?
Just to remind us that
Yes,
that's
or
something we
from
need
the
to do.
above.
Because otherwise we might look at the website recommendations later, but oh,
Yes.
we accomplished everything, and like, wait a minute.
I don't know, you want to say slide 5, number 10 will be posted or something like that.
Yeah,
There will be a like as well.
Yeah.
I'm fine with slide 5.
Uh-huh.
Once we realize.
Yeah.
See what I'm saying that? Okay. So all right, slide 12. So we kind of commented on this previously when we talked about the statistics, but we hit this kind of hard at our last meeting. When we talked about the information from the health department, there were, when we were looking that over, and then there were 2 components to that. One was the Washington Ozaki Health Department sexual health document, and the other was the Yrps Survey. And so I included that here. And then,
Sorry.
yeah.
You tell me, this was the one that families have to opt into, correct?
Correct.
So will that opt-in letter be linked? Where like the opt-out letter for HGD would be linked?
on the website?
Great question. So the process for the survey is we're notified by TPI when it's time to do it.
Okay,
And we would take the survey to the board for approval.
got it.
So in the past, as the board went through, they said, okay, yes, but not these questions.
Oh,
And so then when our students took the survey, it was a little different.
mm-hmm.
And the opt-in, so I'd have to look up what that letter looks like
Okay.
because
And when I opt my child in, do I have access to the questions when making that decision?
I feel like we made that accessible. I think that was
Okay.
part of the board's request. I feel like we made them accessible.
Yeah, I think that was some way to do them, whether it was coming to ESC or.
Yeah. Well, and they're in board docs from back then. So we must have made them. I feel like we did.
Okay,
I mean, it's been a while, but I feel like we did have them available. I don't know if parents had to request or if it was just sent through the Skyward Messenger to them.
Sure.
This letter will be sent home and the questions, here's the link.
okay,
And they took it during their resource meeting. It's really opted in.
Is this a computer?
Something similar. No, maybe not. I don't think it appears in there at all.
Yeah. But that is I mean, I don't know if that needs to be a recommendation, since we don't know for sure, maybe we should make sure that we do link the questions for the parents and when they make that, because sometimes parents are in a hurry and they're like, oh yes, I'll opt them in, and then later on, when they find out what the questions are, they might be like, oh, I wish I would have known that.
or even vice versa, they might
Right.
initially think like, no, I don't need my child talked to about, and then they read the question, and they're like, yeah, this is important
Yeah,
stuff, we
right,
need to
yeah.
be talking about
You
this.
know, these questions are fine, you know,
Right.
whatever, right?
Right,
I
Yeah.
never would have thought of putting, for the YRBS, because YRBS covers seatbelt use, it
Yeah.
covers tobacco, alcohol, drugs, sexual contact. And, can't think of what else off the top of my head.
Yeah, but if the parents saw that, they might be, that would also relieve them maybe, because they'll be like, oh, these questions are fine, they should be asked, or whatever, you know.
I don't know that, I guess what I'm saying is, I don't know that the Human Growth and Development webpage is the place to put that opt-out.
Right.
okay, but if we're using those additional, one of our recommendations is that we want those surveys to guide us in, right, our instruction.
Correct. Well, I wonder if we should, so future consideration.
Mhm.
Because the future consideration.
Sure.
When we do the YRBS survey, processes it, and frankly, having that data accessible to our team and our teachers would be really important. So.
It might actually be important to the community even,
Right,
I think, yeah.
Yeah, it's on, so you know that I pulled the one from the, health department website,
Mhm.
to put in the packet. So when we talk about the YRBS survey, when that comes up again, what I would state that the committee recommends using it. And then, when it's used, details of when it's given, details about how it's used should be discussed and clarified.
And this is just for 8 through 12, correct?
But wouldn't even be 8 if it's resource, it would have to be 9 through 12.
Yeah, so at the time the board votes on it, they would specify what grade levels will actually take it.
Okay.
Because it may not, it may be, 9 and 10, then maybe 9 through 12.
I'm sorry, let me be more specific, I was like, wait, what's happening? the, data won't be used in 4th and 5th grade. Like when you're talking about AIDS and diseases, like, well, in Washington County, so, you know what I'm saying? It's just
Understood.
gonna be
I
used
understand.
for grades 8 through 12.
You would use that in grades 8 through 12 in our current, what we currently do for 4th and 5th grade instruction. When we take it, it's not correct.
Right.
Okay.
It is a good idea to stick it for 9 through 12, because some of the 8th graders go to different, they're not in public school, some of them, so, yeah.
So the, we've worked through the whole presentation, right? We have cleanup to do. And then when we, like I said, I will introduce, but then once we get into recommendations, what I'd like to do is have you partner on slides and talk about them. So what I'd like for you to do, to type in here now, what I'd like to do is identify who's gonna do which slides, keeping in mind that slide 4 might in the future be slide 4 and 5. And then slide 5 might be,
But we still don't know exactly when this is
be
correct.
Okay, tell you what, we'll clean it up, and then when you see the cleaned up version, I will email that to this and say, please let me know once we know the date, if you can be there, and which slides you would be comfortable talking about.
Okay.
How's that?
Yeah, that sounds perfect. Yeah.
So I'm just restating this, so when we watch it again, it's clear. So we will clean up the presentation, spacing, punctuation, all of that, font, everything, and elaborate on the speaker notes. Then send it out to the group, who will state what they're comfortable sharing and speaking to. Additionally, as soon as we identify the date of the curriculum committee, I will get that out to you. You have a hold on your calendar on the 24th, because that's when I expect it to be.
And like,
But we'll know on Thursday.
I anticipate us knowing after the board meeting.
Perfect.
Is that an item, or is that an item on the agenda?
One of the agenda items is to determine who's on what committee and to identify board goals. So from that, then I will contact those on the curriculum committee and say, we had this on hold. Are we good?
Give us a date, give us a second.
yeah,
So the next two that are on the calendar right now are May 24th and June 7th. And then, so I would put that out there to them and say, I'm good to go.
so then when we're doing the presentation, we're gonna be, reading the slide, reading our speaker notes, and not adding anything additional as you're up there speaking.
I do expect the board members to ask
Ask
some
questions,
questions.
sure.
And I do expect them to ask questions. And we can state, well, the committee reached consensus on this and talk about, lots of ideas were discussed.
Mhm.
This is what we came to consensus on. And everybody can watch the videos.
Yeah.
Based on trends. And the notes, they'll have all of the notes. That last slide, which has all of our notes linked on, they'll have that, that'll be in Word docs, that has access. After this meeting though, just a reminder, I'm gonna change the editing access. That comment, just do that right now, or anything else. So, I changed it to view, so you won't lose it. I think that's it then. I just really again want to just thank you so much, everybody. I apologize for truly over this time, but thank you for all of your work on it. Oh, I just closed it on Tom.
Bye, Tom.
Bye, Tom.
We're gonna get back to that track.
All right, thank you.
Flying everywhere.
Thanks, everyone.
It was pretty enjoyable.
Yeah,
I didn't think there was anyone